Hello, Dr. Kalman Andrassy here, and I'm going to introduce the primary method of quantitative instrumentation, which is the use of a survey questionnaire, by showing you how to put together a survey online through both Google Forms and Qualtrics. But before we do that, I wanted to show you a typical sample size calculator so that you know how to basically use one of these in trying to determine what the optimal sample size would be for your quantitative study. Okay, so if we go here to surveysystem.com, who are the creators, of course, of this particular sample size calculator, it's got sscalc.htm. You'll be able to see that there are two windows here to determine sample size and to determine the confidence interval based on the sample size that you have. And basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be plugging in some numbers here to determine what the ideal sample size would be based on the overall size of our population. So to remember what these different values mean, the confidence level is essentially the same number as your p-value cutoff, your alpha, kind of in reverse. So if your confidence level is 95%, then your alpha is going to be 5%, or that p has to be less than 0.05 in order for you to reject the null hypothesis. Okay, so it's basically the amount of leeway you're sort of giving that the null hypothesis could possibly be true. So we're kind of establishing that if there's only a 1 in 20 chance or lower that the null hypothesis is true, that's when we would reject our null hypothesis. Okay, the confidence interval is kind of like the margin of error that you might see on a lot of polls out there, where it gives you sort of the plus and minus percentage that that the actual value would likely lie between. So let's say you have a confidence level of 95%, which is standard in the social sciences, with a confidence level of 5%, which means that if on the distribution of data you see that there's a 40-60 split, it means that the actual value for whatever option A is would be somewhere between 35 and 45, and the actual value for the second variable would be between 55 and 65 if it were a 40-60 split. Okay, so no survey is going to be expected to yield the exact percentage breakdown, but there is a definitive idea or notion that it's going to be within a certain range of values, which is the confidence interval. Okay, and then the population is the overall size of whatever it is that you're looking at. So if you're going to a typical university with, let's say 40,000 students, all you would need to do then is set your confidence level, put in that confidence interval, and then put in your overall population, in this case 40,000. You click calculate, and it tells you what your sample size needs to be based on that information. So with a 5% confidence interval, which is a fairly large one, yes, you'd only need 381 people to be able to generalize onto the broader population of 40,000. Now, we probably want to bring that a little bit lower to about 3, in which case the sample size would be 1,039. And then if we do it all the way down to 2%, it'd only be 2,265 individuals necessary to get a fairly accurate assessment of what's going on. And then, of course, let's go ahead and put in, 350 million as in the approximate population of the United States. You'll actually find that, let's keep it at 3%. Remember, I was at 1,068 for 40,000, 1,067 for 350 million people, right? Because at some point you are going to have diminishing returns on the overall sample size, and generally speaking, your sample is considered good enough somewhere around 1,000 to 1,500 people most of the time. Okay, and then of course you can kind of work in reverse. Let's say you are trying to generalize onto the population of a typical California State University, which is going to be somewhere around 30 to 40,000 individuals, you're only able to get 30 individuals in your sample. We'll set the percentage to 50, just leave it like that. To calculate that out, our confidence interval would be 17.89, which means that there is a 17.89% margin of error between the actual scores that you get with only 30 people in your sample and what the actual value is likely to be. So, the higher this number gets, let's say we get to 300 people, the lower that confidence interval value is ultimately going to go down. Okay? So this is a useful thing to kind of keep in mind in trying to calculate out how many people you need to participate in your study, or if you're limited by various factors and you want to see exactly what your confidence interval is based on the actual sample size you were able to get. That's something you can definitely do here. So thanks go out to the survey system here for making this fantastic sample size calculator, and we'll move on now to creating our actual surveys. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with Google Forms. You just go to docs.google.com/forms and log in with a Google account. If you don't have one, go ahead and create one. It's completely free. And you're able to do a lot of fun things with this particular program. So we're going to be starting a blank new form, but you can put in contact information. You can create an RSVP or a party invite. T-shirt sign up, apparently. You can get what size shirts people need and things like that, or register for an event. As you can see down here, I've got a series of surveys. I have quizzes. I have exams. I'm going to show you guys both of these because the final exam here would be an example of a test of optimum performance. And then we have one here, the relationship between apparently ice cream preference and GPA. It's a little bit fuzzy, but that would be a test of typical performance. Okay, so I guess I'll start with that. Let's start with the test of optimum performance. This is an actual final exam that I had in an administration class, a public administration class. You type your name in first, and then you're responding to quiz questions like you would in any other sort of academic setting, right? A program that provides an established set of benefits to persons who meet eligibility requirements is called an entitlement program. If they chose that answer, that would be the correct answer. If they chose the other answers, it would be incorrect, right? And you can do multiple choice like this. You can have short answer text. You can have longer text information put in. You can have checklists. I'm going to go over all of that fun information here in a second. And then here's a test of typical performance, which is the relationship between ice cream preference and GPA. And this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be creating an informed consent page to which you have to answer yes in order to get to the actual survey questions. If you say no, it'll just take you to the end of the survey. And then you put in all sorts of different survey questions. So here we have multiple choice. What's your favorite flavor of the following flavors? Got vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry, which are considered the big three in ice cream. They got a short answer. What is your favorite ice cream overall? What is your grade point average? That's a short answer text that they can put in. Checklist here is you can choose what flavors of ice cream will you eat if presented to you. Some people don't like strawberry, some people don't like vanilla, some people don't like chocolate. Who doesn't like chocolate? I don't know, but it can happen. And then all sorts of different options, which of course I'm going to go through before the end of this, and then a debriefing section at the end where you thank the individual for participating in the study, reiterate what the purpose is. Maintain that the answers will be kept confidential, and some contact information if you want individuals to have the option to present their questions or comments or concerns or anything like that, or if they just want a copy of the results once it is all completed. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create a blank form for right now. And this is the way it's going to look at its start. So you got untitled form, you got a form description, untitled question, and then options here. What we're going to do first is we're going to look here to the right. We have this plus, which is add question. We have this thing that kind of looks like a document with an arrow on it, which is import questions. Big T and a small t for add title and description. A little kind of mountainous portrait, which is add image. Your little kind of looks like the YouTube button. It's a play button to add video. And then this thing that a lot of people think looks like an equal sign, but it's actually one section on top of another section because it's the add section button. We're gonna click add section twice, once, twice. So now we have untitled form, untitled section, section 1 of 3, section 2 of 3, and section 3 of 3. The untitled form, we're going to put in the title of whatever it is that we want to study. So let's say the relationship between cell phone usage and depression levels or something like that. I think that's a fantastic topic to consider. What we're going to want to do here is add some sort of a form description, like this can be our informed consent. And then what we can actually do is add a question, in which case we physically type in the content that we want for our section here. So the first thing we're going to, of course, do is, we want to have an informed consent page. So let's go ahead and walk through all the different stages of informed consent that we need to address here and make sure that we have a very comprehensive form for somebody to sign off on. So the first thing you need to establish in your informed consent is what the purpose of your study is. So the purpose of this study is to examine the relationship between cell phone usage and depression levels, okay? So something as simple as that, looking at the variable relationships that you're going to be exploring here. Next, you want to establish essentially how that's going to be done, the procedures that you're going to undertake. This survey will consist of 10 questions about student cell phone usage and student depression levels. You want to talk about time limits. There is no time limit. You can always establish one if you so desire to completing this survey. And that should be pretty good for establishing what it is that you need to do. Of course, you're going to be more specific than this. I'm going to go ahead and add at the end here where I talked about depression levels plus demographic questions. Because I also want to include some demographic questions just in case that is in any way relevant. And then what's the third section? Benefits. What are the benefits to participating in this study? This study will be used to come to a better understanding of the relationship between the variables in hopes of informing students students with depression of the effects cell phones may have on their depression levels. Okay, of course, this is going to be self-reported, so it's not quite a medical study or anything like that, but nevertheless, maybe it'll help us to come to an understanding of how depression is affected by our cell phones. Next, we want to talk about the risks of harm. There are no specific risks of harm associated with this study. However, respondents are asked to refrain from answering any questions they feel may negatively impact them or cause any sort of physical, emotional, psychological, social, financial, or legal harm. Okay? And then finally, last but not least, you want to establish that people are free to withdraw from the study at any time for any reason without penalty. Respondents are free to withdraw from this study or refrain from answering any questions without penalty at any time. Okay? For the sake of full disclosure and everything, and making sure that individuals are mostly aware of everything, this study is being conducted by, you can insert your name there, I'll put my name, at let's just say Andrassy University, and any questions should be directed to him at, let's say calma.andrassy@andrassy.edu, or put in a number that you want as your contact number. Responses will be kept confidential, and no identifying information will be released with the results of the study. Okay? So with this, you kind of cover all your bases as far as what goes into this discussion here. I wish you could add more spaces, but that's okay. If you wish to participate, please click yes, I wish to participate below. If you do not wish to participate, please click no, I do not wish to participate below. Oops. Below. Maybe put quotes around that here. There we go. And then with that, you have your informed consent statement ready to go, and you want to give them the two options. So we've got yes, I wish to participate, and then click on add option and do no, I do not wish to participate. And then what I want to do with this is I want to make this a required question. So I'm going to click required and move over this little switch. Then I'm going to click this three little ellipsis button, or whatever you want to call it. And I want to click on go to section based on answer. So if individuals choose yes, I wish to participate, they go on to section 2. If they choose no, I don't wish to participate, it just submits the form, and they're done. Okay? So with that, you're going to be able to have a halfway decent informed consent page, and of course you can add all sorts of different information if you like. If you want to cover all your bases as far as voluntary participation and everything. Section 2, let's move on to that. We're going to entitle this the Survey Questionnaire. Okay, I'm not going to put a description for that, but we're going to I'm going to erase this. I'm going to click. So you have this section here where it's asking a question. This is going to be the debriefing section here in a second. If you click on that section and click the little trash can button down here, next to that you have the duplicate in case you want to make something very similar to it. But next to it you have the delete button. If you click that, it's going to eliminate that particular section there. Let's go ahead and put together a nice debriefing section as well. Usually starts with a thank you message. Thank you. Wait, hold on. Let's actually title this debriefing here. Debriefing. Thank you for participating in this study on, what was it? Oh yeah, cell phone usage and depression levels. So again, you want to reiterate what the purpose of the study is. The purpose of the study again. The purpose of the study is to determine if there is a link between cell phone usage and depression, so that, what did I save up here anyway? Hopes of informing students with depression of the effects of cell phones. Okay. So that students can be made aware of the link. Sure, why not? Then we want to talk again about maintaining confidentiality. All responses will be kept confidential, and any identifying information will not be included in the results. Okay, and then last but not least, you kind of reiterate what you said here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this phrase here with the email address and the phone number. I'm just going to paste that just to get that information. And I'll change this study is going to be conducted by, instead just say, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact Kalman Andrassy at Andrassy University at kalman.andrassy@andrassy.edu. Don't email that. It's not a real email address, nor is Andrassy University. Well, I think there is an Andrassy University actually somewhere in Budapest, Hungary, but that's beside the point. That's not going to get to me in any way, nor is this telephone number going to get to me. So, yeah, do with that as you will. All right, so let's go back to this questionnaire here. So if we click on Add Question, we can see in the upper right-hand corner here all the different types of information that we could potentially get from this particular set of survey questions. So we can have a short answer question. We can have a longer paragraph sort of a question as well. Multiple choice, which is quite popular and common if you're going to be doing any type of categorical variable, whether it be ordinal or nominal. Checkboxes I would generally discourage because they're kind of a pain in the butt to deal with. When coding, you're going to essentially have to create a bunch of dichotomous yes-no variables with those checkboxes, and that's kind of a pain. Drop down, I think it kind of works the same way as a multiple choice, so it kind of works the same way. If you want them to upload a particular file, you can do that with file upload. You can have linear scale, so if you have like a Likert scale question, ranked from 5 to 1 or something like that, or strongly agree to strongly disagree, you can kind of put in this linear scale like that, 1 to 5, and you can label, you know, strongly disagree for 1 and strongly agree for number 5, and then of course all the values in between work with that. Multiple choice grid gives you rows and columns. I think this is good for matching sort of questions. A checkbox grid where you can do checkoffs. You can have them kind of put in what the date and time is as well in order to do some of these questions. But I think you should probably focus mostly on short answer, multiple choice, and maybe the linear scale for most of the questions that you would ask in a social science sort of setting, okay? And of course, you know, there's not too much of a difference between test of typical versus optimum performance in terms of how you structure the questions, but you can also set this up so that you get points assigned to this. Let me see how that works here. So I'm going to ask a question here. How often do you, let's say, how many hours a day do you typically use your cell phone? Question mark. That's a question. That way we can do a short answer, and then they just type in however many hours they so desire. Let's see, if I wanted to change this into a test of typical performance, I think we go under preferences. Yeah, here we go. So we can do collect email addresses, and then we have make questions required. I don't think anybody should do that because people are free to withdraw at any time. Now this particular survey topic would be something that's more conducive to a typical performance test. But if you are going to be doing a test of optimal performance, you can do a default quiz point value. And I think this is how many points each question is worth. So if I were to assign this to this, let's see, response validation, hold on, description, okay. So depending on what type of answers you give here, it should do that. Let's see if I did a multiple choice sort of thing. Would that be how you, no. That's not it either. But anyway, if the person gives the correct answer, for example, what you'd be able to then do is include that here. So in this case, it's a typical response question. We're going to just say, I do not use a cell phone as our first category here, if we're not going to be putting in those. We'll do less. Oops, shoot. A cell phone. This is rather fickle, so less than 1 hour. We're going to say 1 to 2 hours. And then more than 2 hours or something along those lines right there. And then this way, of course, individuals with the typical response will be able to put in whatever it is that that they need. Let's see here. Let's go back to these preferences. So I've got that. How do I actually turn it into a test of typical? Here we go. So you can collect email addresses. You can limit to 1 response by having them sign in. You can edit who can respond, or no, allow the respondents to edit their choices after they submit things. They're able to see responses and stuff like that. You can have a progress bar included if you so desire. You can shuffle the question order. But then quizzes. So if you want to make this a quiz and do a test of optimum performance, here we go. You can set that up and choose what kinds of things the individuals would see, the missed questions, correct answers, point values, and things like that. So then if we add this question, now that it is a quiz question, you'll see that there's an answer key. So, what year did the U.S. declare independence from Britain? Of course, I'm sure we all know that. Hey, look at that! It actually gives a suggested correct answer. That's fantastic. So there we go. 1776, 1782, 1492, or 1802. Sure, why not? There we go. And then we have, of course, the correct answer, which has the little check mark next to it. It would be worth 10 points, and you'd be able to move on from that. So there you go. So that's basically how to use Google Forms in a nutshell. Let me show you all the other options here. So we've looked at short answer. So what is your present age? And then remove that. Of course, you don't want this to be a quiz. So, let's go ahead and turn this this point value thing off here. So what's your present age? So that's a good short answer thing. Linear scale. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you enjoy vanilla ice cream? Right? So then our label for 1 would be not, or I could do it all the way from 0 if we want not at all, right? So 0 to 4, let's do that just so I can show you that you can change it around a little bit. So from 0 to 4, just change those buttons down there. So we can do not at all, or it's my favorite thing ever as your Likert scale style questions. Yeah, you might want to change the wording there if you're actually serious. So not at all, or very much, or something along those lines, so that individuals can kind of choose along that linear scale. You can also do, of course, a standard Likert scale using a multiple choice kind of a thing. So let's see. Let's do like a policy related question. How much do you agree with this statement? A lack of sleep ruins my day. Period. What I want to do is have a multiple choice here. I saw it pop up for a second there. Aha. You can do at all. It does strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. So that you can just have those categories in as well if you want to do that Likert style response category. Okay, so yeah, that's basically how to use Google Forms in a nutshell. You can also sign up, I think, through the university. If you go to university main page, they might have actually a link to Qualtrics. Don't quote me on that. You can always set up your own student account by going to qualtrics.com. But after you kind of set that up, you can go ahead and click on Create New Content and click on a survey here and get started putting together a survey. Let's just leave it titled Untitled Project. And you're able to create all sorts of fun different things here. Just like with Google Forms, you can turn this into a test of optimum performance where you actually get quiz scores. Let me see. They've changed this around since last I've used it. But scoring, here we go. If you go on scoring, it'll allow you to edit what the scores are going to be for each of the, you can do score, manage categories, yeah, and kind of set things up however you so choose in order to make it a test of optimum performance as well. So, I mean, just the same way you type in your questions, you choose, you put in different choices. Of course, you want to start with an informed consent page and move on to different categories. But in order to do that, you want to do kind of informed consent here as this particular page. And we can go ahead and copy and paste what we had in Google Forms, which I may have already closed. I already closed it. Whatever, we'll pretend that we have all the insert informed consent here. And then we can, of course, have our different choices. Yes, I wish to continue, or no, I do not wish to continue. We can eliminate this particular choice here. Remove choice. And then what we can actually do is add a page break after this so that we get to the actual survey questions here. So that the informed consent is on one page, and then you move on to your survey questions here. So again, we have our multiple choice. We can do multiple different answers, so like a checkbox kind of thing. Drop down list, as is an option as well on the other one. You can select a choice from within a box, multiple boxes. It's kind of cool. You can position your responses in different ways. You can force somebody to answer a question. So for example, the informed consent, you probably want to force a response right there. And you can do validations and things like that. Let's see, you can also, let's do another question here, create another question, change it from multiple choice to one of the many different options we have. Of course, you can insert descriptive text or graphics if we so choose. You can do multiple choice, which can be broken down into multiple fun little, you can have pictures of celebrities apparently. You can have single answers, multiple answers. So you have all sorts of different fun options here to kind of play around with. And unlike Google Forms, it kind of gives you examples of each of these categories. Oops, try clicking on something else. ARG. Okay. Matrix table. So you can do Likert scale questions based on different types of response categories. You can have people type in answers with text entry. Slider, that's kind of fun, where you kind of rate the various topics that are in question. So what percentage of your discretionary money do you spend on the following items is the example here. You can slide over each of these categories based on whatever answers you have. Rank ordering things based on preference. That's kind of a neat thing that I don't think is that easy to do in Google Forms. Side by side, kind of a comparison here. Very similar to the matrix table, but a little bit different. And then all sorts of fun things. You can do sums and I don't even know what hotspot is. Let's see. Click on the concepts you like, green, and those that you dislike, red. All right, well, there you go. That's kind of cool. Heat maps. Oh, yeah, look at that. So, I mean, this is a very much comprehensive sort of you can have a signature page here. So with the informed consent, you can actually have people sign off that they consent as well, which is also a neat little thing that you can do. But yeah, lots of different options for this particular set of programs as well. You can have screen captures in here, captcha verifications, so all sorts of different fun things for you to kind of play around with. And Qualtrics really is, the king right now, I think, of survey tools. This and SurveyMonkey are both extremely popular. A lot of Fortune 500 companies collect data using programs like Qualtrics, so it wouldn't hurt to at least familiarize yourself with this. And you're more than welcome to go ahead and use Google Forms as you choose, or you can go ahead and use Qualtrics to collect your data. Basically have to publish it, and then eventually you would get all sorts of data at the end. Click on this. Yeah, you've got distributions and actions, all sorts of things that you can play around with in Qualtrics as well. So now Google Forms is great because it's completely free and relatively easy to access. This is free for students. I think there's probably a limit to what you can do with the data. I don't know exactly what the details are of that. But this is really, one of the more comprehensive tools that wouldn't hurt to be able to say on your resume that you've made a survey or two using this. So feel free to use Qualtrics to collect your data as well, or at least, duplicate your Google Forms survey into Qualtrics, and then you'll have, the experience of having done that as well. And with that, that's basically what it takes to put together a survey online. So go ahead and maybe get some practice in. If you already know what types of variables you're going to be looking for in conducting a research study of any sort using a survey questionnaire, feel free to put that information in. If you just want to play around with it, feel free to do that as well. But familiarize yourself with it, because the wave of the future is essentially to do these sorts of surveys using these online tools.